Murmuring, grumbling, whining, and complaining. Which one are you? Pick one. A, B, C, or D. Yeah, D, better yet, all of the above. Now, what is murmuring and grumbling and whining and complaining? Well, murmuring, that's talking under your breath. Making sounds is grumbling, with all the moans and groans. Don't want to do that. Groaning. All these noises. Whining with that high screeching voice. Whining all the time. And then complaining. Being so negative. What's with all that? Hey, if you don't have anything nice to say, then don't say anything at all. Same principle here. If you don't have anything positive to say, don't say anything at all. In other words, shut up. Nobody likes a complainer. The more you complain, the less friends you have. Unless, of course, your friends are complainers like you. Birds of a feather and all. Yeah. The more you complain, they drop. They drop like flies. They don't want to be around you. No, why would they? Like the Israelites many moons ago, hanging out in the desert after they got freed from slavery. You know, if they wouldn't have complained, it wouldn't have taken 40 years. It would have taken a couple of weeks at most to get to the promised land, the book says. And they complained to Moses, were there no burial places in Egypt that you had to bring us out to die in the desert? What did you do this to us for? Oh, please, stop with the complaining already. You got your protection and marching orders through Moses by God. That should be more than enough assurance of your safety. What are they talking about? You know, what did they want? To be chauffeured by limos with soft music and a wet bar through the desert sands? Well, too bad. You ain't getting that. Just trust God that he knows what he's doing and hold your place. Well, like back then they even knew what limos were. Perhaps they were limo caravans. And growing up, maybe you would have guessed this. I was the worst complainer ever. I just was. It just turns into a bad habit. You don't even realize you're doing it until, like my friends did, they keep telling you one after the other, man, you're so negative. All you do is complain. And then I thought about it, and I realized, they're right. Man, that's got to stop. And we think complaining is harmless. It's just a harmless outlet, letting off pressure and steam. No. That complaining, it accumulates into laziness, depression, and many other things. When I went to college, there was always this kid I would see in the morning in one of my classes, and he always would look at me, and with a dragging voice, he would say, "Bob, did you take your bottle of Downers today?" The way he said it was kind of funny, but it really wasn't. Complaining, man, it just creates an attitude of negativity that feeds on itself. Like 6 fat guys at a pizza shop. They just keep ordering and ordering and ordering, like they're trying to outdo each other. Where one guy finally says, "All right, I'd like to order everything on the menu that's fattening." And then the other guys finally give up at that point. "All right, you win, you get the trophy." And of course, the trophy isn't like a regular trophy. It's another additional 16-inch cheesesteak is the trophy. So complaining can lead to very sinful acts. Like the Israelites once again in the desert. The book says, and this is God telling Moses, "Go down at once to your people whom you brought out of the land of Egypt, for they have become depraved." Depraved. Now they're depraved. In the beginning, when they were free, they were so happy. They were very grateful. and thankful. And now they've turned into a bunch of morally corrupt people. How did that happen? Well, it all happened and was initiated by their constant complaining from the very beginning. Another thing complaining does, it stops our successes and God's grace. Yeah, it's like a huge roadblock. As long as we complain about our present situation, we'll never move beyond it. No, you won't. But you say, oh, well, hey, once this happens and once I get this and that, then I'll stop complaining. No, it doesn't work that way. You must stop first. Then things will change in your favor. Like when you and your girlfriend decide to go to a football game in 20-degree weather and you have the only heavy coat, make sure she pays for the tickets first. Then give her your warm coat like a gentleman. See how that works? Complaining also spreads like a cancer. Very plain to see, like a cancer spreading. The book says, here in the desert, the whole community grumbles against Moses and Aaron. You had to lead us into this desert to make the whole community die of famine. I mean, this is what they were nagging Moses about. It started with a couple hundred, perhaps, out of all those people. But now, the whole 800,000 or million or more people were all grumbling, the whole community. Like 50 daycare kids crying all at once. Yeah, it only started with only one or two kids. Now everybody's crying, the whole group. So you can't have that happen. Who wants that? And we all cry and whine basically because we don't get our way. The definition of a complainer? Well, what would that be? Well, it's one who is discontented with his lot in life. First of all, you don't have to be discontented. Be happy with what you have because it could be a whole lot worse. And secondly, you can still strive to elevate your position in life and follow your dreams and aspirations without complaining about it along the way. You just make it more difficult to move from point A to point B. Not to mention you're bringing everybody else in the room down with your huge dark cloud of negativity, complaining, depression. You're throwing cold water on everybody's flame and fire, dousing out everybody's spirit, which used to be bright and promising until they met you. You're starting off all your sentences with, no, I don't think so, and I doubt if that will work, and that's not going to happen, and you and I don't have a chance. Shut up already! Jeez, you're like a grenade of negativity exploding in my head. I got no choice but to run away from you. There's no other option here. Again, we gotta think about what we're doing. Murmuring, grumbling, whining, and complaining. If you take out the complaining in your life, that's going to cut your dialogue by half at least. Think about it. Be conscious of what comes out of your mouth. You'd be surprised. And it's a big waste of time. And as we said, it snowballs into other things like laziness and depression. And this is going on without you even knowing it sometimes. It's like a silent killer. Not so silent as you're nagging somebody about it, but it's a silent killer, and you don't realize what actually is going on with the whole perspective here. So, at the very least, keep that murmuring, grumbling, whining, and complaining to a minimum, and maybe erase it entirely. The book says, and here's another thing to consider, the book says, your grumbling is not against us, but against the Lord. When we complain about people and circumstances, We are really complaining about God and his design many times. It's a form of rebellion against God. And for that reason alone, we should stop. Stop in our tracks. Like a deer who's just been shot through the liver. Yeah, I believe archery season, that just ended yesterday. Archers out there with their feathers in their head like Indians used to do. Archers, that's what I always think of. But yeah, the deer season, that ended for killing and eating them yesterday. It's kind of funny. You lure those deers over, bucks. You lure them over with those doe and buck calls in the forest. One for mating and the other to fight off buck competition. So the buck unknowingly runs towards it with all its grunting and snorting to a big clearing. And then the buck, realizes it's a trap. Says to himself, man, I just been punked. There's nothing here. But that guy up in the tree pointing something at me, that's the only thing that's here. And of course, those are his last thoughts of his 8-point antler-headed life. Oh, well. Bye-bye, 130-pound Mr. Deer. And hello to 65 pounds of tasty venison. So let's remain optimistic. An optimistic tone and dialogue is much better than a complaining, nagging one. Let's stay optimistic servants of God by not complaining and doubting our present life circumstances. Complaining about God's earthly operations, you're knocking him doing that. Realize God's plan for our life is not all peaches and cream. Although I can't eat cream anyway. With that intestinal lubrication and all, that's what it does to me. I can't accept that. So that doesn't bother me, peaches and cream. I do like peaches though. So in this temporary life of ours, unlike heaven, we have the difficulties, disappointments, frustrations, and failures. We all have that. It's how you react to all that counts. Remember, you'd never appreciate the sunlight without the rain. Got to have both. Both. You can't have one without the other. Like a wife and criticism. You can't have one without the other. Come on, husbands, you know that. And just like husbands, you can't have one without the other. You can't have a husband without slobbish behavior. For most of us. So let's recalibrate our thoughts and what comes out of our mouth. Stay positive and optimistic, keeping your faith and hope in God and Jesus. Because God don't like the belly aching. Nah, he's not really fond of it. The book says, when Moses heard the people, family after family, crying at the entrance of their tents, so that the Lord became very angry, he was grieved. So God got angry over this complaining stuff, and you don't want God angry at you. No. You want God happy with you. Correct? Anger. That's not good. That's not good. Just like when you were a kid, you didn't want your dad angry at you. No. And if you had bad news, like bad grades on your report card, you wondered, or at least I did. I wondered when would be the best time to tell him, like before work or after work. Because if I tell him before work, he might be in a rush and have no time to yell at me or maybe even give me a whack or two on the butt with the belt. And he'd say, I'll talk to you later about this when he gets home. And then by the time he gets home, he rethinks it and he's tired from the work day, and then maybe he'll let it slide a little bit better. Yeah. So I always thought early in the morning was better than, or actually earlier was better than later. Because if you tell him when he comes home fresh, you'll get your dad's wrath. You don't want that. And complaining is something we have total control over. It's something that's not beyond our control. So there's no excuse. Oh, I can't help it. Oh, blah, blah, blah. Yeah, you can. And you have to. Just commit to the fact that no matter what happens in your day, that you'll never utter one sentence or word or even sound of complaining. Try to do that one day. See if you can make it through. And no more moans or sighs. And no more facial expressions of complaining either. You know, those frowns and smirks, they could be just as bad, and they're probably worse. Those smirks where you crouch up your face like a dried prune. You know, your face becomes one big pucker. And now that I think about it, those looks of dissatisfaction, they are more devastating than words most of the time. So let's decide to put a stop to all of it. The whole kit and caboodle. And by the way, that expression, kit and caboodle, I always thought it was kitten caboodle, like a cat. Kitten caboodle, but it's actually K-I-T and caboodle, whatever a caboodle is. Kitten caboodle. I like my way better. The kitten. Who doesn't like kittens? They're much better. I mean, they're small and sweet and cute compared to an adult cat, which is most times snooty, snobby, and pompous. Yeah, they are. That's not complaining. That's just stating a fact. And you consider that before you purchase one. Don't be fooled by the little prancing, cute little thing, which is about 4 inches long. How can you not like that? But then they grow big and heavy. I mean, my neighbor had a huge cat. I mean, it fit in both her arms across her body. That thing was huge. It's like a dog almost, some of these cats. What's with that? You know, you always have dogs chasing cats. Well, I don't know. Some of these cats can take the dogs, I think. You have cats chasing dogs in a reverse society. Just like men are now women and women are now men. And the reverse society. Once you see a cat chasing a dog down the street, you know that's the end. It has to be.